Welcome, relational leaders and listeners. This is Cultivate, your podcast destination where we celebrate thriving relational leaders and encourage each other along the influence journey. I am Wendy F. Adams, your host and strategic guide. In each episode, I will engage with leaders who are sharing authentic stories that support impactful influence. I believe work shouldn't be a four-letter word, but should inspire, challenge, and fulfill. Through a high challenge and high support model, we will explore the recipe for relational leadership that drives meaningful change. You will gain insights from leaders who face the same challenges you may encounter and discover strategies to navigate them with resilience and purpose. I'm thrilled to welcome a true people champion, Pinky Keswani. As Chief People Officer at Sustainable Conservation, Pinky leads with heart and purpose, guiding the organization's people strategy with authenticity, care, and a deep commitment to both mission and team. With nearly 15 years of experience across sectors and a powerful pivot from for-profit to nonprofit, she brings unmatched wisdom to the table. Get ready for a conversation full of insight, heart, and inspiration. If you're seeking healthy leadership engagement in an open, empowering, and authentic environment, then you're in the right place. After all, as leaders, we're either driving progress or we're driving the problem. So let's grow together. Welcome to a fresh episode of Cultivate. Today, I am thrilled to welcome a true people champion, Pinky Keswani, Chief People Officer at Sustainable Conservation, to the Cultivate experience. Pinky, I am thrilled to have you join us today.
Well, happy to be here, Wendy. Thanks for having me on the show.
We are going to have such a great time from our time in the green room where we've been able to interact and engage and learn a little bit more about each other. I have had that privilege. And so I want, as all things are true, when we're having a good time, time flies. And nothing will be truer than that today as we go through and just interact and share bits of your story and how that's playing out in your leadership. So I want us to jump in so we don't miss a beat. But for the audience, because I've had that opportunity, share with them a little behind the story of your why and how that shows up in your leadership today with sustainable conservation.
Well, happy to do that, Wendy. My way of being in this world of the people world is because that's what I always wanted to do. And now that I reflect back on it, I don't really have a reason why I wanted to do that. It's just something I felt like, yeah, it's human resources. I want to work in human resources. So I ended up my MBA with specializing in finance and HR. And then I moved from India all the way across the world to US. I found an entry level job at that point, and I moved up from there on. I will say where I am today is definitely where I'm very satisfied and I feel fulfilled in what I'm doing. I never aspired to be in a leadership role. It just kind of flew and it happened over time. I love being part of a nonprofit, and nonprofits are, I feel, where I'm actually truly able to contribute because there is so much affection for the mission. People are doing it for a cause, not to say that for profits are not for cause, but I feel there is a good combination of passion and mission and dedication in the nonprofit world, and being able to do what I'm doing and relate it to sustainable conservation's values, I find that true integration of what I want to do and how I want to support the organization and everyone in there.
Well, and you say that it's just kind of naturally been in you. And that from the beginning of our conversation, it has been this natural flow that I've heard from you. This is who I've been. And now you've found a place where that why comes together. And so it's not something that you have to force, but that is there. Like you said, a passion for the work comes through so naturally. That talks about where we begin, right? Where's our origin? When we think about our leadership journey, it's just that it started. It's where it is, and then there's always where do we want to go. So you mentioned that you're in the nonprofit obviously space now, but that's not where you've always been. You were in the for-profit world and made this compelling shift. What inspired you to make that leap? And what surprised you most when you did make that change?
I think the second one is easier to answer for me. What surprised me was that I thought I fit so much better in the nonprofit world.
Mm,
It's kind of hard for me to define it. I'm going to try. It's the pace of the work, or
mm,
basically, I feel like working with the people who really, really care about the mission. Who are I've worked in a different nonprofit before, sustainable conservation, and I've had the same experience. Everyone who's working in the nonprofit world deeply cares about the mission, and that what truly stuck with me. Like, this is wonderful. I'm able to do what I want to do, as well as also work towards something good for the community and directly give back. Maybe it's part of being on the HR side of the organization, or supporting the people internally, because that is such an important job to do as well. We have everybody who's working in the organization leads the organization towards the fulfillment of its mission. Coming to the why nonprofit, I would say the nonprofit world happened to me. I did not consciously choose it. After my second career break, when I had my second child, I was like, I absolutely love my kids, but at the same time, I love what I do. So I
mm-hmm.
wanted to get my foot back in the door, and I started looking for opportunities. And from there on, the world just opened, and I realized that, oh, nonprofit is where I think I found my sweet spot of the work that I want to do, as well as help the organizations give back to the community.
Well, and I keep hearing that from you, and I love it that it is an and both, right? How is this going to fill you as well as organization and community, right? So the work that you're doing is a cup fill for yourself. And you're able to see that in a place in a space where it's for your community as well. Your work at sustainable conservation hasn't been you haven't been in the same position. You've actually been able to move through director of people and culture. Now you're serving in that CPO space. That's a pivotal change and a movement and a transition that doesn't always happen in organizations, whether there's not that upward mobility or those plans for career growth. How has that shaped how you lead today, that you've been able to see as you're speaking into team, that there is that opportunity for growth? How does that shape the way that you speak to the teams that you're serving?
Well, I'll say that I actually had a title change, and it was a lateral growth that happened. So that's the clarification, I'll say. I can
Ah.
give you the why behind it, and the why lies in what we do as an organization. We underwent a compensation study about 1.5 year ago, and during this process, we came up with some equal level of job titles, and that was the change with my job title that happened. Having said that, I will say that within the organization, there are tremendous opportunities of growth. And the way we
Mm.
approach career growth in the organization is we work with individuals in what is their area of strength. We are a very unique organization. We have a flatter structure, and we try to build that. We try to just keep helping people in whatever they are good at, what is they that they want to do. And we have also carved out some special, or I would say unique, job descriptions or roles,
Mm.
just to make sure that we have a good match between the role and the person. So some of our program roles are actually very unique. Administrative titles are kind of pretty much the standard where you'll see in different organizations, but the way we work, basically the organization itself is very unique in the work we do in the environment space. So we try to support all our teams through that process.
I love the individualized approach, even from a title. You're not even taking that for granted and really wanting to make a match to who is the person, the work that they're doing, and then what we even give that as a label. I think that that is a pretty unique space. Not that no one else is doing that, but to make sure that that is a place that we don't even overlook. I think there's kudos to be able to speak out that the organization sees that as being an important piece, which kind of takes us to where I'd like for us to go, which is the heart of the work that you're doing, right? And what's happening there. There are challenges. We know that there are challenges not only in the nonprofit space but in the leadership space. And therefore, what are the strategies that we need to talk about in balancing those challenges and moving forward? You know, people business can be messy business. You are in a process of hiring and the development process. And yes, even the exit process, which doesn't have to be a bad thing if someone's moving on and moving forward. What's one of the challenges that your team is currently navigating that maybe some of our audience members and other organizations might be facing now?
Um, I want to say sustainable conservation does everything so thoughtfully and intentionally that we try to mitigate the risks or we try to overcome those challenges even before they exist.
Hmm.
So
So,
it's
yeah, very proactive approach.
very proactive approach, and that's something which is again I find very unique to the organization. Um, I'm really trying to think hard. What was one of the challenges? Only challenge I can think of that I dealt with last year was getting in compliance with the new workplace violence prevention plan.
Mm,
And that was one of the challenges. The process was just finding out the right training, working to get that training organized and getting it completed so we stay in compliance with the training. I want to say that there is tremendous support, even though I'm a one person team, but there is tremendous support from across the organization in everything I do, from hiring to the social activities to thinking about culture, how we keep the culture strong in the organization. And I don't look at my job as just confined to these things. It's more like we work together on so many things. I have a tremendous amount of support from our programs teams when I work on the job descriptions, get into the hiring. And we also are working towards a culture of feedback that can
mm.
help people grow. And that's also like we are modeling through everything that we do in the organization.
So you're asking for that feedback. You're not waiting for it to. You're giving an open door to say, please let us hear from you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do regular pulse checks. We do our annual employee engagement survey, which we call climate survey internally. And we listen to what everyone has to say. And I want to say the distinct thing is we don't just have lip service. We actually take those comments, we reflect on it, and see what can we do with those.
Well, balancing people first leadership with those compliance issues or those real life organizational compliance things that are out, that's a tough balance, right? Here's what we have to do, and yes, you're going to be heard. And any story that you can share that you had to walk that line, of here's something that we've got to do, and we do hear you as far as employees, that might be a challenge, or doing things a little bit different. One of those things that we talked about was people being in person. So, is that something that you have found to be a challenge at all?
Um, Not exactly, I would say. We've always been people first as an organization. So I haven't really specifically run into any challenges. And I want to knock on the wood for that one. I want to
Yes.
continue keeping it that way. I can definitely share maybe our process of
Hmm.
how we approach certain things. We do get input from everyone, from the entire staff, on decisions that are affecting that will affect everyone. Like a great example would be our approach to the hybrid work. How we
Mm.
approached it when we were coming out of the pandemic was we did a survey, we asked people what works for them, what doesn't. That helped us design our approach and see what works best. We figured that in person connection is so important. So having that space to meet regularly would be a good thing. And as I shared earlier, that our teams work really hard. Our teams work with so much dedication and passion. So why don't we do something which gives them a chance to connect as well as
Yes.
disengage from the hard work or the passionate work everyone does? Though I will say
Hmm.
it doesn't fully happen though. But people try to participate in those activities and we still talk about the amazing work we are doing. So altogether, I'll say that I haven't really faced any tough challenge that I will say that, oh my God, it was so hard, we could
Mm.
not get through this. It's the way the organization is, being proactive, being thoughtful, being supportive. Compassion is really high, caring for each other is so high in the organization.
Well, it sounds like with that intentionality, you're able to build this high level of empowerment, right? So even if there is a challenge that an individual may feel, because that's real world, they have a place to be able to speak that up and feel that security to be able to do that. And I think that is what we want to make sure, we don't have is just here or there, but like you said, it's the culture, it's the environment, that those who are participating can actually feel confident that that's what they have. You haven't always been with the organization you're serving with now, and that means you've had the opportunity to build some systems, some HR things from scratch, that you've been in this nonprofit space specifically. For our grassroots leaders that are trying to do that same thing, limited resources, what's a strategy or a mindset that you see has made the difference for you in being able to make those big decisions, with, again, from the grassroots and ground level?
Mhm. Um, I would say the first step would be analyze the need, what is needed in the
Mm,
organization. I mean, I would not recommend just come in there and make the change, because understand, connect with the people, connect with the organization, see where things are.
mhm,
When I came in at Sustainable Conservation, I have to give credit to my predecessor. She did an amazing job of leaving everything and walking me through the whole process, whole setup, and how things are run in the organization. That my transition was the smoothest I could ever imagine. So I've never ever got into a role where things have been so smooth and nicely set up that there isn't much that needs to be done. I did an analysis of, do we need a new HRI system, because we're trying to integrate some systems.
mm,
We still have that up on our list of things to do, but the question is that keeps coming up, like, if something's not broken, we don't need to fix it, right? If it's working, then we can actually wait a little bit. So keeping that thing in mind, that first do the analysis of what's needed, what's not needed. It is totally possible that someone gets into a role where they have to make major changes or take decisions very quickly, and that's totally okay. But that also can disrupt something around the culture. That can be like, if you're coming in as a new leader with some specific goals in mind, and the way you roll it out would have an impact
mm,
on the people who are receiving it. Basically, that would be your internal customers, that's the staff. So work with them and see what makes most sense. And take time to know everyone. That is so important. It's, again, it's possible that if organizations are very big, you may not have the opportunity to connect one on one, but
mhm.
try to make an attempt to understand or build those relationships, because in the end, work can still get done, but it's the relationship that's going to take you forward with the work.
Well, and I think that that's it. You make such a key point there. It is going to be the people who obviously are doing the work, the relationships. That's at the speed of how things run, right? If there takes time to build trust as a new leader coming in, smaller organization. Um, it's not about coming in and turning things all upside down, but asking those questions: what is working, what isn't working, where do you have a need, and even as you said, you are a team of one. So giving that time, and it seems like the team then recognizes, wow, she cares. So in that regard, there's that point of, well, we're going to be patient, you're going to be patient, and we're going to walk this out together. That's what I'm hearing from you, is there's that intentionality of, I have an expectation that we are doing this together, and I can raise my hand and say I need help if that is the case. I love that we've had a kind of an inside look into you, and how that's looked, and how your leadership has grown, and come to the place that it is, and again, for profit and nonprofit side. Now let's talk a little bit from your personal lens, right? We know you wear several hats. Your colleagues in the HR sector, there's not just one thing that you do, it's a multitude of things. And like the rest of us and all leaders, you're a 360-degree human, right? It's not just about the work. You're a mom, you're a wife, you've got a wonderful dog, you love to be in the kitchen. These are things that I love that you've been able to share with me. How do you stay grounded to bring your whole self to work without just burning out, because you're balancing all of those things? What are you feeling? What do you say is kind of the secret sauce for you to be able to do that?
Oh, Wendy, I gotta think about that one.
Right. I mean, when you think about it, don't you just go, oh, I think maybe, I don't know. Or that is where that time away, kind of taking that breath back. But those things don't shut off. And I think for leaders, sometimes that is what gets us in trouble, is that we feel like we've got to be a master of all of these things all at the same time, and not recognizing that it is what you just did as an example. I need that pause. Right. And so I'm just wondering, because I'm looking at all these titles that you hold, and I'm thinking about myself and others. How are you finding to sit there and be ever so, well, this is how and this is what we do? What do you do on a day in and day out basis that allows you to balance those things personally and professionally so well?
Yeah, Wendy, that's actually really hard, I'll say. And one thing which I've learned over time is self care is really important.
Mm,
And
mm,
that self care does not come in the form of just like hygiene factors or anything. I'm talking about like taking care of your mind and body both,
mm-hmm.
because taking care of oneself will actually help that person to show up for everyone else, right? And for
Yes.
me, as you've noticed, yes, I do have multiple roles. I'm like any other working parent. I'm in that peak phase raising children, and I'm also working. I have a supportive spouse, and I cannot get enough credit to him for that. But he definitely helps me with a lot of things, as well as helps me calm down when needed in situations, and that's a reality. I wouldn't lie.
Yes.
Other than that, I'll say, yeah, nature walks definitely help. Giving
Mm,
some time to myself, it's helpful whenever I can. I'll try to go to a yoga class or something. So those are the practical things that I do. Do I vent? Yes, I do vent. I'm a human being. It does happen occasionally. I will say that's the personal side. On the professional side, again, I cannot give enough credit to the organization and the team for a supportive and collaborative work environment. Even though I'm a one-person team, I do have support from my office manager, from our accounting manager in handling some of the responsibilities that come under the scope of HR. And besides that, everyone in the leadership team or the organization, I'll share one incident. I came from a different organization to
mhm,
sustainable conservation in 2022, and it's a different work culture that I keep bringing up. It took me time to get used to that kindness and the good work culture as
mhm.
well. My first experience was working on a job description, and everybody just pitched in giving their feedback in the comments, and it's a shared document. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, did I not do my job right, basically? But no, that's not the story. The fact is that this is the way we support each other in the organization. And from that point on up until now, I've become very comfortable asking for help. I'm like, here's a draft, here's a job posting that we're going to do. And I share it with everyone. That's the collaborative spirit. Collaboration is the DNA of sustainable conservation. I cannot see us operating without that. Collaboration, respect, well being, learning, these are our core values that we operate with. So,
Well,
definitely.
that is so encouraging. And because I think all of us can think back to a time where that wasn't the case, right? Again, being in the workforce as long as most of us have, we've had those experiences where we learn what to do and what not to do, things that were healthy and unhealthy, and we can learn from all of those. That, to your point, when you actually engage it now in a structure, in an environment, in culture that is so healthy, in the beginning there was a moment of wait, is there something, is it real? And to your point, I love it, you're like, did I not do my job? But that's the way that it's supposed to be, right? Is that we would have that true collaboration. Again, sometimes we throw that word out but don't live it actually out. So I appreciate you bringing that to the forefront. And even what you said from a personal standpoint, like this is the reality of being a human being who is influencing others, because that's what leadership is. And I think that that's just encouraging for each of us to be able to hear that, and not feel like, well, I'm alone in that space. Again, for those who may be listening who aren't experiencing it, that's hope. It is out there, and it can happen even in a one person department, because I think that's the other piece when we talk, especially with our grassroots and smaller organizations. you know it's we're in a place, in a space where we've talked about and celebrated, those things that have been, and you are in a place where an organization that is doing things so well. What's one of those places where you have been stuck in your leadership and you learned from a mistake that actually you walk through, or a team member that you were leading, and but you saw it as one of those spaces that I said it's still a learning moment? Anything come to mind in that area?
Thinking hard. Um, Trying to think, not in the current organization or my
Mm-hmm.
current role. Might be something in my previous organization. We were undergoing this whole system transition with payroll. There might have been some mistakes which we had to go back and review and revise. So it's a learning journey. Everything
Mm-hmm.
we do is a learning journey. The key is to be self aware and
Yes.
reflect and not take it as like a mistake is the end of the world. I will say though that sometimes it can cost money in terms of compliance and
Mm-hmm.
everything. So keep
Mm-hmm.
that in mind. But besides that, there are actions that need to be reflected on and learnings that you take from it. So my take from certain things in the while working on the payroll side or working with the 403b thing were like, okay, the process needs to be improved. And once you catch those mistakes, the process has to be revised and improved. Do we need a second set of eyes that needs to look at things? Or do we need to maybe work with the payroll provider at the back end and have some different settings? So I'm kind of thinking just top of my head, certain examples that come to my mind. So those are the kind of things I'll say that can happen. But give yourself some grace, is that is so important, and just know that the world is not perfect and it's okay for you to be not perfect. It's okay. There is too much pressure in the world to be perfect, I feel. And that is okay. You'll still survive, work will still happen, ask for help, and it will still happen.
Well said. Well, I mean, that is some priceless advice right there, as far as, the self-awareness component, obviously, making sure that we know who's showing up in the room, in the space, but then also that grace space, not only giving it to others, giving that to ourselves, and setting a level of expectation of, yes, excellence in your work, but excellence does not equal perfection. That I think was so key to everything that we've been talking about and sharing today. It also takes to that place of hope, right? That we can have hope in the work that we are doing, that it will continue even beyond ourselves. What's giving you hope right now in the world of people culture, people and the culture in the work environment? What gives you the most hope in that space?
A lot has changed in the people world in the past few years, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what really gives me hope. When I see leaders talk about being authentic, leaders are
Mm,
actually being vulnerable, and that gives me true hope that there are people who are modeling how they are doing things. They are not shy about sharing their own challenges or
mm,
struggles, and that makes them feel a little bit more human. And
yes.
that also encourages their teams to share what they are struggling with, or reach out for advice, reach out for support. The world of human resources has definitely evolved from being very paper based, from being very, I don't know if it's the right word or not, but some words that were associated would be
Mm-hmm.
old fashioned way of doing HR.
Yes.
I've seen
Mhm.
that that has come a long way. And my LinkedIn feed is filled with some good content on a regular basis on how finally we are at a place where in human resources, the human element or the people is actually being put first, and how organizations are doing it, how much they care, how much they really value their people. And it's showing in every little thing that they do, whether we are talking about employee well-being, whether we are talking about how equitable approaches are being designed in the organization. So there is a lot how we put people first, and that's what gives me real hope that there is plenty more to be done in that direction.
I love it. I love it. And that is such a hopeful piece, right? To be able to see the change that, and again, we're not saying that we have arrived and we're there and there's no more to do. But when we can talk about where it was and we can see where we are, it that is a hopeful piece. And I love that you highlighted humility, right? A leader being able to say, I do need help, or here is a place that maybe there was a challenge or a mistake that was made, but to say we're in this together, and bring that piece of humility into the space, and making themselves much more human to those that they are serving. I mean, I don't think any of us can deny that that would be a place of greater hope. It's as we're getting to a point of wrapping up here. I just want to be able to leave with a piece of what you would say everybody who's listening, every leader who might be in earshot of, as they're navigating the ever evolving places that they are in their space. What's a call to action that you would want to leave to the listeners? Something that if they were going to put in place in the next week or 2 weeks, what would that be?
Gotta think again. You have some really good questions, Wendy.
Well, as you say things, it just pops these things into my mind, because I think that we do interact and engage with one another, and we hear things, and then it's like, and you said it earlier, what can I practically do? Like when you talked about a nature walk and think, what are the things? Because we're all clamoring for, how can I do that? And so I think it's always interesting to be able to get to that place when I hear those pieces. I know listeners out there want to know, all right, what's one thing, if she was going to say, this is something that I would encourage myself and my fellow leaders. Here's a call to action. Here's a place that you can make movement on. Start there. Doesn't mean perfect, but here's a place to start. So just wanted to be curious in that space with you.
Yeah, sure. I will say definitely work on building the relationships within the organization and know your people. It is so
Mm,
important to know the people because you don't want to be caught off guard suddenly, like when you are getting a resignation letter and you would be like, oh, what happened? And it's too late to take an action at that point. So
yes.
it's
Yeah.
kind of like know how things are going in the organization and understand as much as you can build those relationships because those relationships help you thrive in the role, and it's just good for everyone. It's like it takes the organization forward. We're all working towards the same mission, right? Like at
Yes.
Sustainable Conservation, we are working in the conservation and environment space. We have a few different programs. Our programs collaborate together. We have our bi-weekly staff meeting where everyone comes together. We have a nice little check-in that we do. From there, we just go into our roundtable, and we always have a main topic. Like currently, we have a book discussion going
Mm,
on 15 commitments of a committed leadership. We're working through that book. So all of these things are actually a way to build that connection across the organization. And it's not just a requirement that, okay, we need to get the updates. There are so many other ways to give updates, emails or memos, but where is the human connection? This
yes.
is where the human connection happens, right? And this rapport, this energy that goes forward in whatever the organization's mission is and how we show up for each other. So I would say that's something which people can work on and definitely prioritize self care. That is so important. So take,
I,
yeah, take
you
care of
you you hit it, you hit it well. I think that that's, you've spoken that all the way through, and it is something that each of us have to continue to be intentional with. It is not something that we can take for granted, and if we take our eyes off of that place of when was the last time I actually asked a question of someone on my team and stuck around for the answer, right? Because we can say, "Oh, it's busy and we've got to get on to the work," but that's what I'm hearing from you, and it sounds like what's being done really well. It's sustainable conservation. Pinky, I can't believe that our time is closing up here, and I just want to make sure if people want to be able to connect with you or learn more about sustainable conservation, what's the best way to do that?
People are welcome to go to our website and they can look us up. They can connect with us through that. I'm accessible on LinkedIn. I can share my personal email address if it's needed. Happy to help, happy to guide as and when needed.
Well, I appreciate so much, and I know our audience will as well. Just an inspiring conversation, very hopeful, which is what we all want more of. And I thank you so much for sharing your story, providing a glimpse into that relational leadership journey that you've been on, your passion and your insights. They've been impactful today. And what an absolute pleasure to have you on as a guest.
Thank you for having me, Wendy. I truly enjoyed the
Wonderful.
conversation.
Yes, thank you so much. Well, I want to say I can't do what I'm doing without the guests, and certainly without those who are interacting and engaging as Cultivate collaborators. But today's a wrap. But I want us all to remember each of us bring our own special flavor to the mix of relational leadership. And so until next time, let's keep stirring things up. Let's make an impact and continue to be better together. Thanks so much. Before we sign off today, I want to send out huge appreciation to our listeners for tuning in. I hope you felt seen, heard, and inspired to level up your own leadership journey. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. And if you're ready to level up your leadership, asking for a friend, or interested in being a guest on the show, connect with me at cultivateforgood.com. That's cultivateforgood.com. Remember, as leaders, we're either driving progress or we're driving the problem. So let's grow together.